No, I'm just trying to understand how a belief becomes. So, for example, I believe Muhammad's a messenger of God. Yeah. Just for example.
Well, let me just address. You don't know when belief comes knowledge. When there's
I'm asking
evidence.
you. No. I'm asking you when you believe it becomes knowledge.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, that's what I meant. When does belief become knowledge? When there's evidence to support it, right? If you have no evidence,
understand your position.
Yeah. No, that's fine. When you have evidence to support it.
When you have evidence to support it, and then evidence is what?
Evidence is a body of objectively verifiable facts.
Right. So if I believe Muhammad's a messenger of God, could I have evidence for that?
Could you? Sure.
Yeah, what evidence would I need for that to become knowledge?
Well, here's the thing. Amount of evidence required is different for everybody. So let's go with, for you, you believe in God. It didn't take very much evidence, right?
Why'd you say that?
No, because I'm sure we've all spoken to very many of the same different people, and I don't believe in you do.
But why do I believe though? I never used to. Why do I know?
No, that's what I'm saying. So you required, okay, we won't say less. You required X amount of evidence for you to put your belief into it, for you to accept it.
What the existence of? I accepted. Okay. It didn't take much for me to consider the universe required an independent cause. Yeah.
Okay, but now if you're saying, well, what is the evidence that it would take for you to believe in God? Well, we have to look into that evidence, right? Because evidence is objectively verifiable.
No. Sorry, please. My belief is that Muhammad is a messenger of God.
Okay, okay. Sorry, can I misword that? Whatever it is you believe, right? If you're saying that you have evidence to support that, well, then we have.
What evidence would I need to support that?
Well, you give whatever evidence you have, and we objectively verify it. So let's say you have 10 things.
How would you verify that claim?
Objectively, you put it to the test.
How?
Test it. Give me a claim, and we'll run through it and test it.
Okay, Muhammad claimed an angel came to him in the cave and said he was a messenger of God.
Okay, that's a claim.
Yeah.
Okay. Do angels exist?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, demonstrate it.
I can't.
Okay, then you have no evidence.
Right. So just because something's unobservable, does that mean it doesn't exist?
No, but that is the difference between someone who's spiritual and like a methodological naturalist.
Do you believe science is the source of all knowledge?
I believe it's the most reliable thing we have.
You think it's the source of all knowledge?
No, I'm just face palming. I mean, what an idiot! Come on,
I know.
Cloud is asking really rational questions, really like down focused, everything wonderful, perfect, and then this guy comes and yes.
Yeah.
I think the difference is, and maybe you talk about it, Cloud, but one of the things to stress and to say it very loudly and repeatedly and slowly in this particular case is that there's a different category for a natural claim and a supernatural claim. So whatever you can appeal to for your dad or whatever, that methodology doesn't apply in the same way for a supernatural. Right? And that's the big thing. It's a category error, and he's conflating the two, and he thinks that he has evidence that Muhammad got spoken to by an angel. And the question that you kind of asked him, but he responded and said, I don't have evidence. Then the question is, why would you believe that to be true? And now he's going to go into subsequent things that he thinks can back up that claim that he didn't in and of itself have evidence for. So now he's going to talk about things that happened after that show, in his mind, he thinks there's a link between what happened after that to demonstrate that whatever happened in the cave, it couldn't have been him just making shit up. It must have been some sort of supernatural claim. And that's what we want him to get to, right?
And I run through the whole thing with him.
But it's a supernatural claim from over 1,000 years ago, man. Good luck.
Yeah. So what he's going to do that, and we know this, right, y'all? He wants to demonstrate. Well, he's going to attempt to, and maybe he does or he doesn't with Cloud, to demonstrate that this book either is most probably or could only have come from God, and that's like Mount Everest, right?
The scientific method is the most reliable thing we have currently.
You believe it's the source of all knowledge?
Do I believe what is the source of all knowledge?
The scientific method.
The scientific method isn't a source of knowledge. It's a means in which we can. No, the scientific method is it is a tool in which we use to understand what it is we're studying.
Right. So if the scientific, right. So if the tool you're using can't recognize the metaphysical. For example, for you to say my belief that Muhammad had a visitation from an angel, you'd have to demonstrate that angels don't exist.
Or you can demonstrate that.
No, I don't have to. This is the claim. See, you're supposing angels don't exist. That's the problem.
Yeah, but we have to test the claim. He said an angel came down and spoke to me. Okay.
He said an angel came to him in the cave and told him he was a messenger of God.
Go on. who wanted to
I
speak?
was going to say, but if it's someone that's a theist that's talking to him and he's talking about an angel visiting, my argument will be, well, how would you know it wasn't a demon?
That's another good way of saying it, right?
You know, how do you know it
Yeah.
wasn't a demon that was speaking to him?
But
I mean, I'll
can't hold that
fucking
position.
say that angels don't exist, but who cares? I mean, you're the one who say they do exist. What's your reasons, right?
You see,
Yeah,
that's,
but I think
that's what he tried to do right there. He did shifting the burden, right? Because he's saying, no, you have to prove to me angels don't exist. I'm like,
Yeah, but if
no,
you guys
you have to prove they
you,
do.
Cloud, and y'all say, hey, I don't think angels exist, and now you've taken the burden on. Don't say that unless you're going to follow it up with the reasons, right? I know you and y'all could do that, but the moment you do it, he's going to ask you, okay, you need to demonstrate, which is exactly what he said. Unless
That's
you
it.
want to go through the demonstration, don't make that. It's just so easy to make the claim, and it lets
That's
him off
right.
the hook. And we don't want to
And
let
that's
him
why
off
I
the
didn't
hook.
do that.
And that's
You know,
why
that-
Thunderous will do it
yeah.
slightly different way, because he accepts that angels exist. So he's going to go at, how do you know it's not an angel? So it's a different approach here
You
with
don't have to.
different
You don't have
people. But the main thing is don't let him off the hook.
That was his claim.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
How would you verify it?
Let's start with the first proposition. An angel
Well,
came down.
yeah.
Okay. In order for anything else beyond that point to be acceptable, so an angel came down and he said that he's a messenger of God, blah, blah, blah. If that angel cannot be demonstrated to exist and does
That
not
means it
exist, everything else is invalid, right?
Why? Are you saying just because
No,
science can't verify it? No.
hang on. If the angel doesn't exist, the message
Why
couldn't
if an
have
angel
been
is unobservable though?
delivered. No, I'm just asking a question. If the angel doesn't exist, then the message couldn't have been delivered, right?
Right.
Okay.
But the claim is an angel did speak to him.
Okay, that's a claim. Demonstrate the validity of that claim. Demonstrate the angel exists. How do
I
you
don't have
demonstrate? What?
I don't have to.
Well, the claim. I'm sorry, but that's not true because the burden of proof falls on the claim.
No, I believe an angel. No. He said an
don't.
angel spoke to him. How could he verify an angel? How could he prove an angel spoke to him? How could he prove that?
Okay, so you can't demonstrate that an angel
How
exists.
could Muhammad demonstrate it?
Okay, so again, I think what we can do here is, like, he asked the question, how can we demonstrate that? My response, one response could be, I'm not saying it's the only response, but I could say to him, one way he could have done it is said to the angel, hey, Gabriel, I'm now going to Mecca. I'm going to stand in the middle of Mecca, and I want you to appear as a booming voice or demonstrate yourself to everybody around me such that they would believe. Right? It is possible that an angel could do that. Right? Hamza would have to acknowledge that it's possible. So I'm now giving him a criteria by which he could demonstrate, at least at a much higher level than he currently did, that this happened. But the fact that he heard a voice in a cave is far less believable than if a booming voice came down in the middle of Mecca and everybody for the 10 miles around, or in fact the entire earth, heard this voice in their own language saying that there's a man standing in the middle of Mecca, and they gave the coordinates and said, I'm speaking to him, he's the last prophet. That would be quite extraordinary. And every single race around the world could verify in stone tablets 1400 years ago that they heard this voice from the sky. Now my level of belief would have been shifted towards his direction of the plan. So I've now given him a criteria.
How could Muhammad demonstrate it?
I not my problem. He made the claim. If I make a
Right,
claim,
so how could he, no. But how could he demonstrate it?
no. If I make the claim that I have an invisible unicorn in my backyard,
Get your invisible unicorns. How could Muhammad?
it's the same thing. It's the same
No,
thing.
forget your invisible unicorns. How could Muhammad verify that claim?
It's not my problem. He made the claim.
No. But the point here is this. No. The point here is this. No, it doesn't work that way, mate. It doesn't work that way.
It does.
How could Muhammad verify something exists when it can't be observed?
No.
Because he was the only one who observed it.
Okay, no, it doesn't matter. He
Doesn't
made
matter.
the claim. No, because he made the claim. The burden of proof falls on the individual who made the
So
claim.
you're saying he lied?
No.
He didn't
Actually,
lie.
no, hang on. I actually heard that in the last conversation. It's either he lied or he didn't. Okay, that's
No,
fine.
it's not. There's more than that. So what I'm saying is,
So we agree.
if Muhammad claimed to see an angel, yeah, and you don't believe angels exist,
No.
then you either think he's crazy, thinking you see an angel that don't exist.
No, there's other options. He's
Give
mistaken.
me the options. Give me the options.
Okay, he's mistaken.
Mistaken for what?
Right? Because crazy people hallucinate sometimes, right? Either fatigue or whatever.
He hallucinated.
No, hang on. I'm giving an example, right? That's all I'm doing. So people do, non-crazy people, even in a fatigue state, can hallucinate. Is that
Okay.
correct? Okay,
Yes.
that is a possibility. I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying that's a possibility.
Go.
How do you rule that out?
How do I rule that out? They hallucinated.
No,
because
okay, so you can't rule it out.
So I'll tell you how I can rule it out.
How?
He received revelation for 23 years.
It doesn't matter because that's claims. So we're working on one single
So
claim.
you're saying he hallucinated for 23 years?
Hang on.
Okay, so that's of course where you wanted to get. This is where we wanted to get to, like about 20
Yeah.
minutes ago, which is, hey, there's no way we can prove the cave happened. But what he thinks is that because all of these other events happened that are similar to the cave, that gives the cave more credence. They're all, of course, supernatural entities, not witnessed by any other person. Stops, unless you can correct me on this. There's nobody else that ever witnessed or heard or was involved in any of these revelations to Muhammad. So essentially, they were cave-like experiences for 23 years. So one highly improbable supernatural event happening over 23 years doesn't make that initial event more probable.
See, later on, somebody comes in and they bring up. Now, this is just my ignorance of the Quran. But later on, he'll bring in somebody else who's going to bring up the hundreds of people saw the angel, and I'm like, okay, well, thousands of people see Bigfoot.
Let me just check in. Let's just see. Stops. Was there reports or were there claims that somebody else saw or heard in one of these revelations?
No, what it was. Can I just add that? But they claim to have witnessed the state of his mind, or him sweating, or him having kind of experiences as he was getting the revelations. Not that they saw him getting the revelations. He was sweating, foaming at the mouth, and such things when he was having these experiences. Can I also add as well, I don't know if it's relevant to the subject, but wasn't there some kind of claim as well in the Quran that the angels came and got involved in a battle as well?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they talk about it, but I'm not sure that there's evidence that actually it's like, hey, if these angels came down and did this or whatever, I don't know. It stops around, is he?
Yeah. I answered. No, there's nobody else. And it's actually Aisha who said, isn't it convenient that every time you want something, your God comes and gives you exactly what you want?
Yeah.
Just a little.
Okay, but at least he's got to the point now, which I think is where you could, and maybe you do point that out, right? He's thinking that all these other supernatural events make the first, because he's already predisposed towards the first supernatural event in the cave happening. Well, shit, if all these other ones happened, I've got no evidence for that one, which he's self-acknowledged. I've got no evidence of the other ones. But hey, if I've got no evidence of 10,000 of the, well, let's not say that many, let's just say 500 of these events happening, somehow that makes it more likely to be the case than if I don't have evidence for one. And actually, you could say, well, it's the other way around, isn't it? Because if there were these 500, presumably some evidence would have occurred with one or more of these other interactions. And if they are equally as improbable or only happened to him as it did in the cave, is that what we would expect from these sort of events where he's getting revelations? And the sweating, as if we take the sweating, I mean, obviously people sweat and foam at the mouth all the time. That's not a good reason to believe it. Nobody else heard the voice. Nobody else saw the angel. And there's mad people that have been around since the first time of humanity. So none of that is good reasons to make it more probable that the first cave event is likely, because all these other supernatural events are claimed to have happened. In fact, I would suggest it might be the opposite way around.
Yeah.
One claim at a time, and this is how you break down books. It is literally one claim at a time. The claim is an angel came down, said X. I'm not going to remember everything. Said X. Okay. So in order for angel and on, the spoken word, to be valid, angel must exist. There's no option in that. So can we demonstrate that the angel actually exists?
From the initial appearance, no. Afterwards, yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to speed it up to 1.5 times so we can get through a bit. So hold on to your hats here, guys, and pay attention as much as you can. Otherwise, we're not going to get through, and we're going to have to stop at some point. Stops, you're the main host, so you just tell us when you want to stop. Okay, great. So he's now said yes. Let's hear if in any way what his logical argument is that we can demonstrate that the cave example it happened because of something else.
Okay, so we can't do it initially.
Okay, a man is alone in a cave. He claims an angel spoke to him.
Sure.
Right. So no, how can he demonstrate an angel spoke to him if it was an angel?
Okay, so we can't. So why am I going to take it on board? It doesn't matter. It can't be done. Why would I take it on board? Why would I believe something that can't be proven?
Does that mean angels don't exist then? Does that mean angels don't exist because he claims an angel spoke to him?
Did I say that?
Well, that's what you're implying it.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you just said because you can't demonstrate an angel exists, that means angels don't exist.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
What does it mean then?
Okay, what I'm saying is you cannot demonstrate an angel to exist.
No.
Until you can,
it's his claim. Remember, it's his claim. He can't demonstrate angels don't exist. Does that mean an angel didn't speak to him?
Can it be demonstrated that angels exist?
No, he couldn't demonstrate that.
Okay, not even then. Now, even in now, with everything that we have today.
In history, there is reports that other people did see it.
Okay, again, these are all claims from individuals.
Yes.
Okay, so we all have 100,000 people all claiming one thing. It doesn't matter because
you have 100,000 people. Or can it just be one person who saw it? Another person who saw it.
It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 100,000, right? Because it's the validity. This is what you have to look at.
How would you test the validity?
By testing the claim.
How would you test the claim?
You would try and demonstrate angels exist. If
you couldn't.
Then you don't take it on board. I cannot believe something that cannot be verifiably true.
Right. So just because you can't, just because you
Yes.
Sorry, just that it can't be demonstrated to you that angels exist. That means angels don't exist, according to you.
Do you have any means in which angels?
No, that's your position.
No, hang on.
If that's your position, that's your
Okay,
position.
No.
yeah.
My question would be,
Let me just clarify.
What
Is
a
that your
fucking
position?
bitch.
Yeah, he's literally doing the no. It's either A or it's not A. He doesn't understand that it could be A or B, right? He's just the fuck. He's an idiot.
But Cloud, yeah, it's irrelevant whether you take the position that angels do not exist, even though you should take that position because it's an insane belief. But anyways,
No, because
Yes, to
then right
support
there
this
he would turn around. He would immediately turn around and tell me, "Okay, prove it." Right? He would stop interacting. Like I have to make sure, especially in these conversations, you do not take a position, right? Because
Well, I mean, y'all
you'll
could,
turn around
right?
and say, "Prove it." Okay, well
Yeah,
now
but
I
I
have to
think-
prove angels don't exist. When if I
think
don't
there's
take a
different ways
position,
to argue it, right? And I think Jarl is of the view that he wants to argue the positive case that they don't exist. So I think it's just
yeah.
understanding that you argue it slightly differently. And I'm
Yeah.
more on your side of the fence than I'm on Jarl's, but I recognize that Jarl could do it the other way, right? So it's just a different way of doing it. If Jarl
Yeah.
wants to argue the positive case that it doesn't exist, then he can do that, right? And he's pretty good at doing that, so he could do that.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way to do it. But I do think that he needs to demonstrate, of course, that it is probable. And he's saying, but he's asking the question, how could it be demonstrated?
Yeah.
And that's
I mean,
maybe for
he's
us to
shifting
think
the
about.
he's shifting the burden of proof so blatantly.
oh, he
It's
tries
like-
so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
He tries, but I won't let him have it. That's why I even told him, like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you can't demonstrate, you're telling me an angel exists, but you can't prove it. I'm not going to believe you until you can prove it. That's why I say, if I have an invisible unicorn in my backyard and I tell you I have it, you're just going to believe me?
Yeah,
No.
you notice he
Why?
didn't want to go there, right? He didn't
Yeah,
want
no,
to
he
go with that
didn't.
analogy because that leads, but then you've got to go all the way through with that analogy and show why there's a problem there. But he didn't want to go down there, of course, because it was
Oh,
entirely analogous.
No.
And that's why he didn't want to go down there. Okay.
No, it's not to me. Hang on. It's not to me. In any sense, to anybody, can you demonstrate angels exist?
can I don't demonstrate angels exist? No.
Okay, so then it's not me. It's anybody. You can't
No,
demonstrate.
you. I'm talking about Muhammad's claim.
It doesn't
But
matter.
you're dismissing his claim. No. You're dismissing his claim because you're saying angels don't exist.
No. I'm dismissing his claim because there's insufficient evidence to support the
What
claim.
evidence? What evidence could he give that an angel came to him?
Doesn't.
Of course it matters.
No,
You have to have evidence from somebody. What's the evidence?
I'm asking if someone is going to make a claim of something, it is up to them. They hold the burden of proof. If you're going to make a claim, if I'm saying I have just
Don't talk
follow.
about invisible unicorns, please.
Okay, but this is valid. If I say I have an invisible whatever in my backyard, and I'm going to tell you what evidence do I need?
Go on, use your argument. Go on, I'll let you use it. So I'll try how stupid your argument is.
What
Go on,
evidence,
use your argument. I'll show you how stupid it is. Go on.
what evidence do I need to prove there's not a unicorn in my backyard? You don't
No. Tell me what you've got first. Tell me your claim. What's your claim?
I have an invisible unicorn in my backyard. What
Really?
evidence do I need to prove it doesn't exist?
Do you believe in invisible unicorns?
It doesn't matter.
No, do you? What does it matter?
Sure,
You just said it matters.
Okay, hang on. We'll play this. Yeah, I believe there's invisible unicorns. What evidence do I need?
Why do you believe them?
Because
Why do you
because they come and talk to me. What evidence do I need?
How do you know
to
invisible
prove
unicorns talking to you?
How do you know an angel?
No,
is talking
you're
behind
making a claim
me?
then.
Okay, so this is where I think you did a good job here of going with
And I
because they
do,
don't
yeah.
like hypotheticals, and so for the hypothetical, yes, you believe it, but he's asking you, right, and all you need to do because you're doing essentially like a reductio, right? So all you need to do is the same, which maybe you're going to do, which is, and I say to them, I hear I use the dragon example, but you could use the unicorn. I hear them in my dreams and they speak to me. When I go out there, I can't see or feel or touch them, and neither can anybody else, but they speak to me in my dreams. And they're out there and they actually tell me they're on top of the shed outside in my big back garden, right? So I'm using a reductio that is virtually like theirs, right? So I'm now presenting that to him. And if he's going to say he doesn't accept that, if he's honest, he's going to be very careful not to accept that, because if he doesn't accept that, then I shouldn't be accepting it. And I could say to him, and I could do exactly what he does with Muhammad. And I say it happens every night, every single night. And if you came into me, you'd see me sweating, because it talks about in the Hadith and the Quran. You'd see me sweating. You'd see me shifting around a little bit, because that's what my wife has said to me. Right? It's exactly the same thing that's happening with Muhammad is happening with me and the dragon. Now, in order for him to dismiss that, he's going to shoot himself in the foot, or he's going to present something else from Muhammad, and that's what you're looking for, the something else that we can say, okay, well, that makes Muhammad more likely than the invisible whatever it is.
Why do you believe invisible unicorns are talking to you?
Because they do.
Why do you
They
believe
talk to me.
that? Based upon what? Why do you believe that?
You're literally arguing the exact same point I'm making.
No, no.
Angel, you really are.
No, no.
Reverse the roles. Muhammad in a cave, me in my backyard.
No.
Yes.
I believe in angels.
It doesn't matter.
You don't believe in invisible unicorns. You don't believe in invisible unicorns. That's different.
Sorry, this is going too fast. I appreciate it. It's probably
No, but this was a checkmate now. Come on.
I
Yeah, but I
literally
think Cloud
just
needed to do
linked
that extra step,
both
right?
fucking things, and he's like, no. It's different because
Yeah, but
I
I think
believe.
Cloud you needed to do that extra step, which is to say that they talk to you in some way or communicate with you, because you
I
just
did.
said, I know they exist.
No.
Okay, but it wasn't clear enough for him, right? So it's like doing the reductio in the same way as he does.
Oh.
And at the moment, he doesn't. He's not grasping it. Maybe that's the case. And
No,
I fully
he's
acknowledge
not.
that's the case. He's not
Yeah.
grasping that you've presented a reductio against his position
Is that what
that
it's
is
called?
directly analogous.
Yeah.
And you could just, because when he says, "Oh, I believe in angels," you just say, "Well, oh, I believe in unicorns," right? So
Yeah.
you're playing the same game. So he needs a criteria that is not self-defeating to him, and that's where
Exactly,
he's
and that's
going to have a huge
impossible.
problem.
And that's exactly what I just did. When I'm like, replace me, me in my backyard, Muhammad in the cave.
Yeah, I think there was an
And
extra.
he's like-
you did say it maybe in passing there, but it wasn't explicit enough for him to get the message. And again, with him, you've got to be very explicit. Otherwise,
thought
it
it
sort of
was.
bypasses him.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
because did they talk to you? And I said, yeah, they talked to me. How do you know? Because I know. I believe they talked to me. They talked to me. Done.
Right. It doesn't matter what you believe; it's what you can demonstrate.
No, sorry.
You cannot
That's what you
demonstrate. You
Listen
can't
to me.
demonstrate angel exists.
You don't believe in invisible unicorns, so you certainly don't believe you've got one in your back garden.
Okay, you literally missed the entire analogy.
No, I didn't.
You absolutely did.
Yeah, of course he did.
absolutely didn't.
Okay, hang on. Let's try. Like me making a claim, I have something that I cannot demonstrate exists. Muhammad made a claim that he cannot demonstrate exists. You are.
Do you believe that thing exists?
It doesn't matter.
Do you believe that thing exists?
Okay, so he's completely confused. Of course, the moment you hear that, you know that he's just not following the hypothetical, and he's not the only one. I've come across many Muslims who don't understand it's hypothetical, and their objection is, hey, if you don't actually believe it, you can't make the analogy, right? Which is, of course, utter nonsense. But that's how flawed some of their thinking is. So one has to get over that hurdle here and explain to him why I don't have to actually believe it to put it forward as an analogy to demonstrate the problem with your thinking. But that whole process is time consuming.
Oh, Jesus Christ, is it ever?
You don't believe that thing exists. Why are you making a claim about that thing?
Because it's about the demonstration.
So you don't believe that thing exists?
Doesn't fucking matter.
Of course it matters.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Can I demonstrate it exists? Right? Even
No, you don't have to demonstrate it exists. First, tell me why you believe it exists.
It doesn't matter. Why? Because unicorns like to come and talk to me.
Why do you believe that?
Shoot on the
I don't
foot.
believe it. I know it.
Why do you believe that?
Because it happens.
How do you know?
Because it happens. It happened to me last night.
Really?
Yeah, prove me wrong.
Oh, well, I can't demonstrate. What did they tell you?
Oh, lots of things. In fact, one farted and there was a rainbow and a little leprechaun. That leprechaun told me to burn things.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you need to get checked into a
And
psychiatrist.
I think Muhammad needs to get.
I think you need to be checked into a psych. Okay, I think, of course, I know where you were going with this. What is helpful here is, again, for me, is to like make it somewhat real, and I say this tongue in cheek, obviously, somewhat realistic, to avoid that sort of snarky comment, which, of course, you know, and I actually don't think that he knows that you've completely reduced his position to absurdity, or at least if he's going to reject you, it's going to be self-defeating. So either he doesn't realize this or he does, and so he's going down this fallacious line of reasoning to say, well, if you don't actually believe it, but you could concede, hey, I believe it, and you kind of have now for the sake of the discussion, okay, why did you believe it? He's trying to go down, why do you believe what you believe, right? That's his favorite saying. And all you're doing, of course, quite correctly, is just pointing out the reasons you believe it, which is exactly the reasons he believes it. And you said it happens time after time after time, which is exactly his reason for thinking the first cave experience happened. So he's got nothing here of substance to respond with. So now it's just vacuous, fallacious things that are coming out of the mouth.
That's it. That's it. And the criteria he's demanding for me to demonstrate why I'm believing this, he's asking me for evidence. I'm not sure if he's even aware of what he's doing, but he's asking me for evidence to explain why I believe this. So now he wants to know why I know this. And yet he's not applying that very same thing to why he believes what he believes. He just believes it for the same reason I say, I just believe it.
Yeah. And if you emulate exactly what happened with Muhammad or whatever, or the closest you can, which is kind of what you're doing, at some point you're hoping that he's going to utter a word and say, okay, what's your evidence for that? Or there's going to be a key phrase that you hope he's going to say that you then immediately can turn around and say, okay, well, now apply that to you. That's the key. And maybe he doesn't get there, but that's the key thing you're hoping to do. And maybe he knows that that doesn't work. Some people, I don't know that he could do that, but that's hopefully where we can go. Let's just see if we get anywhere close to that.
If those things are true, mate, then...
do you understand? Do you understand? Hang on. If the claim is an angel spoke,
no.
Then that claim needs to be demonstrated You have to demonstrate the claim.
And if that claim can't be demonstrated, that an angel spoke to him, then what?
Then why? Okay, then that is a fair question. I'll give it that. Right. So to someone like you who already believes and accepts these things, right?
Say again, sorry.
Sorry, to someone like you who already accepts these things as true.
I didn't accept these things though. Well,
Well, you did. You said that you believe in this.
No. Oh, okay. I believe in this because I believe Muhammad was claimed to be, because I don't believe he was lying. I don't believe. So if I believe someone spoke to angels, listen, I'll make it easy. If I know somebody who doesn't lie, yeah, and he told me that an angel spoke to him,
It's irrelevant.
yeah, I would question, why would he lie about this thing?
It's not a lie. We covered this.
No, because what makes you think he's lying? What if he's not mistaken?
Well, the alternatives are very simple, aren't they? Either he's crazy, delusional, seeing visions of angels, or he's deceived, and because this is the Christian argument that a demon became an angel. What's the alternatives?
Well, I gave you.
Okay, you did give the original alternative. That's the only thing you need to give that he's mistaken.
I gave you one earlier as one small example where he could have just been exhausted and had a slight hallucination.
Yeah, delusional. That's fine. Delusional. I'll rule that.
Okay, so what did you do to rule every other one of those options out?
Okay, I looked at each one on its merit. I look at what the ramifications of this angel speaking to him was. Yeah, I looked at the continuation of the revelation. It wasn't just one time. It was 23 years.
Okay, so he hallucinated a bunch. How did you rule that option out is what I'm asking. How did you
hallucinate for 23 years? Okay, he was an illiterate man. How did they come up with the Quran?
World imagination.
That's the claim that's another claim that you're making. So we've got to, again, just recognize what's going on in his mind. Muhammad is, of course, the author of the Quran. And of course, our inquiring minds are, how did you establish that he's author of the Quran? That's another claim. So you're stacking another claim on top of that one to try and justify the previous claim. And then you're going to stack another claim on top of that to try and show us that you know that the Quran was authored by him.
But that's the only way they could do it.
These things are all like done deals, right? If the Quran was authored by him, so that automatically means how could he have done that? And my question is, well, how do you know that he did that to begin with?
Well, I gave him an example how he had a really good imagination. Done. How do you rule that possibility out?
And we can, but again, you've got to know the Quran, and Stops and Thunderous are even better than I am at this. Once you know what the Quran says and so forth, he's going to claim that because he says this all the time. That's why we know it, right? Oh, but he had to memorize the Old and the New Testaments and all these other things. But he didn't memorize those. And when you go and look at the information, he got those things wrong. It's like hearsay that he heard from people. It was vague things that are in the Quran that don't match what the Bible said anyway. So he didn't in any way memorize these things. He heard little bits of information that are put together in the Quran. But if you don't know the Quran, Cloud, you won't know that. So you might have to accept that he had to know all these things. But once you know that he didn't know all these things, then that claim is taken away. But the question to ask is, well, how do you know that he authored the Quran?
Well, if we look back in that period of time, we also knew that have you read the Quran? But you haven't even substantiated the initial claim. We've actually
have you read the Quran? Do you know what you were talking about here? The revelation.
No. I will give it this. I've never read the Quran.
Right, and he was an illiterate man, and even his enemies said that he's getting this from a supernatural source.
Okay, so?
Right. So even his enemies. What do you mean, so?
That's not in the Quran. The point is, Hamza, he's waffling. This is not in the Quran. There's nothing about Muhammad in the Quran. So what he's doing is he's now deceiving you, trying to make himself look superior, giving you like information, but it's not true. It is not correct.
It really didn't matter. It was you gave me a claim.
No. But this is the tactic. I'm pointing this out to others, for others to see that what comes out of their mouth is not necessarily what is correct. All right. So you need to watch out for what it is that they are claiming. You need to verify every single thing. Where does it say that? Every time he makes a claim, where does it say that?
So the other thing, Cloud, is you'll notice that Stops and James SC aren't allowed on there because they're Islamophobes. Now, both of them have got the information to show that this isn't the case, and in fact, they've got evidence that counters this. Do you think they're allowed on? No, they're not, right?
No,
because
it's actually funny you say that.
Sources for these sort of things.
Because before you go in there, before they let you on, you have to go in a waiting room type thing, where you're in the private chat thing. I was back there with James SC.
Yeah.
And he was just fucking answering no, you said this, you're wrong here. You said this, you're wrong there. And I'm like, I'm yelling at them on the science side. It's just like, we're both yelling at them from the background. And it's like, oh God.
Because he's got a script, right, that Muhammad was truthful, that everybody knew this, etc., etc. He never said anything wrong. He's illiterate, and quote, we all know this. And as Stops will say, and so will all the rest of us, no, we don't know that. Those were claims that were made, right? And he might try to point to some other people, and you can point to some other people. And if you have conflicting ideas, why would you believe it to be true? But he won't present that evidence. He'll say it as if it's a matter of fact. But that's why I say he won't do it with Stops or James SC, because they'll have the information to hand and say, hang on a moment, but there's other people that said he could read, or there's other people that said he was a liar. So your claim that everybody believed he wasn't is simply not true. Now he'll have to shift the goalpost and say, okay, well, most people did. Well, how do you establish that? Did you take a poll? How many did you got? And he's only got one or two sources, and he's going to extrapolate these one or two sources where everybody or most of the people or whatever the case is. That whole process, though, is a very long, time-consuming process. And if he were to do a one-on-one with Stopspamming or James SC, he would be, to use his words, not mine, he'd be exposed inside out. But that will never happen, of course, and we know why.
Well, because when your enemy is telling you that this guy is getting his stuff from supernatural, he's not getting it from himself, is he?
All that means is that his enemies can be as delusional as he is. That doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like, so what? Who cares?
Experts in language.
Right. Sorry, go on.
It's also the information. You know, he's saying that his friends are saying, or his partners, his friends, his followers are saying that, or his enemies are saying that this is supernatural stuff. But what is it that's so supernatural that wasn't known at the time then? What has he come up with in this book that one has to say, wow, this is something a bit special?
We heard it the other day, right? So, and you probably know this anyway, Thunderous, but it's this claim about this one poet who went there, who read this, who came back reportedly, and we say this in inverted commas, and reportedly was reported to have said, wow, there's, you know, I'm like, he came back and people saw his face was shocked. He didn't know what to say. This was like amazing. And they asked him, can you disprove it? And he said, you have to go away and think about it. He came back and he said, all I can say is it's magic. That's the claim that he makes, that people at the time thought this was just amazing by this illiterate man. Now, I don't remember the exact prophet's name, and he doesn't mention it. I'm sure it's somewhere to be found where he gets this claim from, but that's where he's trying to get it. And then he's extrapolating that other people did this, and then it becomes all these people. See how it becomes Chinese whispers and becomes that one specific reported event? Why would you accept that's true?
I think this is that one where it says we've never heard a recitation like it, or I've never heard a recitation like it.
That's one of them. Yeah.
That's the one.
I heard of that.
Right. So an entire area in the world at a time period where superstition ran rampant with different religions and different beliefs, for a group of people to say, yep, this other supernatural thing happened, is just mind-blowing, is what you're saying.
Well, the point here is this is an illiterate man coming with a language in a manner that there's no way he could come with as an illiterate man.
Again, it doesn't matter, because you still have to address the claims. Right now, I'm not here.
I just explained it to you. How do you address the claim? The only way you can address the claim is this guy crazy?
I cannot.
What's the option? Tell me the options.
Stop. It is not my job to prove the claim. No, it's not.
You're claiming he was hallucinating.
No. When did I claim that? I gave
what do you believe then? You claim to have an angel come to him. What's your conclusion?
Prove it. Who made the claim?
Muhammad claimed that an angel came to him in the cave.
So who does the burden of proof fall on? Me?
Right, and I'll say it to you. How does he demonstrate an angel came to him?
Not my problem. I didn't make the claim.
You're asking for the evidence.
Excellent.
Evidence, anything that counts as evidence. I gave my definition.
What counts as evidence to demonstrate an unobservable angel exists?
A body.
You see, we keep coming back to this.
But this is the way to do it.
When he's run out of ideas, he's going to ask you for criteria for evidence. And if you're just given it in the beginning something, he couldn't go down this line anymore. And even if you make that criteria so extraordinary, again, a God could trivially do any criteria that you or I could think of. God could do in his sleep, right? It would be metaphorically, he could do in his sleep. So I just think that because this is another avenue that's left open. I don't think it's an avenue. I think it's fallacious reasoning, but it's an avenue left open that he can explore that hasn't been like cut off. So if you just said, hey, well, if he spoke to everybody around the world at the same time as he spoke to Muhammad, and then after that, it was just Muhammad, and that angel told everybody that this is the man he's speaking to, and this is the last prophet, boom, there you've given a criteria. Now we believe that he spoke to a prophet, an angel or something. Right, you could give a really extraordinary example that would need to happen. Now you've given something, right? Now that line in the sand is drawn, and he's obviously not going to be able to demonstrate that, but you've given a criteria because he just keeps going back to this. I would just give a criteria and we're done with it, right? All right, stops at about. We can go on for half an hour longer if you want, but I think we're.
I don't know.
I don't think there's so much more. Because
again?
I think he doesn't he get kicked after a few minutes now?
No, in a couple minutes, he's going to bring someone on who's going to tell me that I was being very disrespectful and very rude to Hamza, to which I point out, Hamza, was I rude? And he's like, no. I go, okay, not him, but you were rude to Sabur. And I'm like, okay, so now you're making...
We've got another 12 minutes before that guy comes on. And then
you can go to him. He's fun. That guy was fun to talk to. He was dumb as nails.
All right, then let's quickly step this.
Let's
skip this and go to the.
All right, we'll just quickly jump for 12 minutes and see if there's anything there for a few minutes.
We've got the antidote for him. We've got the antithesis of this along the line. This is Brother Abbas from EF Tower, mashallah. And there's no way can you be disrespectful about that.
I love when they started to fight amongst each other, when they sort of disagree with each other. That's great.
Yeah, we'd love to have Abbas on Jinn and Tonic. Oh my word, would we have an interesting show? Do you think he'd come on here? Not for £1,000, I bet you.
I'm going to pick him on after. Is that okay with you, bro? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. You let me know when you want me back.
No,
Never come back. You're an idiot. I understand now what Cloud was saying.
It's 7:30.
It's 12 here in the UK. You know that, don't you? I'm still going to give Abbas 10 minutes with you, okay?
Okay, well, let's give it. Abbas,
he's going to respond to your claims about alien abductions, I believe. Yep. All right.
Hi, Cloud. How are you? All right.
Okay, quickly there. What was your alien abductions? Just so we're in the point. Do like the shortest. What was the thing that Abbas is going to respond to alien abductions? Just summarize it as short as you possibly can, Cloud. What was that about quickly so the audience knows?
Oh yeah, alien abductions. Thousands and thousands of people claim to be abducted by aliens. Do you believe it?
Yeah. Okay, cool, perfect. That's a great analogy. Okay. Let's see what he says about this.
No.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
What color are your aliens?
Okay, so Cloud, basically, you make an assertion that a lot of people claim that they've been abducted by aliens. Why would we believe them? Now, I think it's a bit of a false analogy, and I'll explain to you why.
Go ahead.
You see, if you had thousands of people, Cloud, that witnessed you being abducted by aliens, the story would surely be a lot more credible, and you would have to investigate how comes a multitude of people over 23 years saw you being abducted by aliens. That story would completely change. Would you agree to that?
No, that's a bad analogy because we're not saying the angel took him. We're saying it's just that thing exists. So 100,000 people is all that claim to see aliens. Would you agree?
Okay, no, but Cloud, you're trying to make a false analogy here. Let me try to explain to you why that is.
Because
your claim was...
Sorry, just stop you.
Yeah,
who the fuck is making a false analogy here?
They don't know.
Abbas who doesn't understand shit about what is going on here. This is absolutely amazing.
Okay, but the reason he's saying it's a false analogy, and I agree with you, he's misunderstood it entirely, right? He's trying to make the analogy that if 100,000 people saw Cloud being abducted, that would be more believable. And in his mind, all these people somehow, in inverted commas, witnessed Muhammad getting a revelation. And as we've talked about here, nobody actually witnessed any such thing. Right? They've witnessed some things that they attribute to him having it, but that's just easily explained through natural phenomena. There's nothing supernatural that other eyewitnesses saw, as far as we can tell, and you guys can correct, from these revelational quote unquote experiences. But that's the analogy he's trying to draw, that all these people saw this over 23 years, and therefore your analogy should be that all these 100,000 people saw you being taken by an alien. Of course, that's not the case, is it?
No, I believe this is the gentleman who brought up a lot of people saw angels. That's why I asked that earlier.
Okay, right, yeah.
Was that Muhammad, peace be upon him, claimed that he was a prophet, and thousands of other people at that time claimed that they were prophets. Why would you believe Muhammad? Then your analogy would work.
No.
However, let me just please finish. Your analogy, the reason why your analogy falls apart is because you have thousands, if not tens of thousands of people during that 23 years who were convinced that this was a prophet of God. And that holds a lot more credence than many individuals telling you they experience certain things. Now, number two.
Okay, just wait. Before he goes to number two, Rob, what he's saying is factually incorrect, because you need to remember the numbers here. You need to remember that in his time in Mecca, he only had like 150 followers. And then it only gradually increased. It is only much later that this increased. In the beginning, it was zilch. It was like, there was nothing there. So what he is saying, that there are hundreds of thousands of people that were Muslims, this is not correct.
Yeah, but did you also notice there that he said are convinced? He didn't say that they witnessed, right? And the original analogy was that he said that your analogy would be that people witnessed you being taken. That now he said that, as Stops pointed out, there's all these thousands of people, or hundreds of thousands, whatever, that were convinced. Well, hey, there's been people that have been convinced of things throughout history, right? But if you're going to question Cloud's analogy, then you have to say, well, okay, if you're going to question him and say, well, it's wrong because the analogy needs to be that 100,000 people witnessed Cloud being taken, well, now you have to show us that 100,000 people witnessed Muhammad getting a revelation. How do you establish that 100,000 people did that?
Yeah.
And at that point, you will have nothing to say. Some words will come out of his mouth, I'm sure, but they will be completely vacuous.
Thousands of people witnessed being abducted by aliens came to you with a book that was the first book written in that language, which was the Quran. The first book in Arabic is actually the Quran, and in fact was unequaled in excellence, in eloquence, in information for over 14 centuries. Then you would still have to ask the question that adds another, let's say, facet to the stone. And so
so if you know who this guy is, right? He's the follower of this guy called Raymond Farron, right? Stops and I probably have to read this book. I think Stops has done some work on this already. But there's this non-Muslim that apparently thinks the Quran is just wonderful and shows all these techniques that no human could have done. And this Abbas has swallowed this hook, line, and sinker. And for him, this is just his knockdown go-to argument that there's this guy called Raymond Farron, and the eloquence of the Quran is just unmatched. No human could have done it. But even if we granted that, right? Even if we granted and we were charitable and say no human could do it, how could you demonstrate that an alien didn't do this for humans?
Yeah.
How do you establish that it's more likely that it was God, not an alien?
I played Dungeons and Dragons with a guy who's so good at storytelling that it's just he must be getting it transmitted through somehow.
But not only that, okay. But the other thing is the criteria here is entirely arbitrary. Right?
Yeah, it is.
And there's nothing. And if you look at the Quran, because Stops and I've done this, and other people have as well, right? This whole thing about bring a surah like it or whatever. The very next verse is, and no, you can't do it. Now imagine I said to you, Cloud, hey, you write something like this first page of the book that I've written. Write something like it, and you bring something. But then I show you that on the next page, on page 2, it says, and you never can. What sort of test is that? An unfalsifiable test with zero criteria that you will never accept. I will never accept, no matter what you bring. Yeah. But these guys parrot this as if this is some sort of criteria that shows the Quran is magnificent. But his whole thing is the eloquence from Raymond Farron, who isn't even a Muslim and was so convinced by all of this, he became a Muslim because he thought the Quran was so wonderfully written, which is entirely arbitrary. I wish we could have this Raymond Farron on and we'd read the book and Stops and I could question this guy. I don't think that would be possible, but I wish we could. I would take the time out to read this book. Stops and I could do this, and we could show how this is entirely arbitrary stuff. Why is he a Muslim? And if this is his best evidence, then because this Abbas has just swallowed this whole thing, and that's his view on the Quran, right, from this particular guy.
Facet argument. We're making a multifaceted argument for Prophet Muhammad to be the prophet of God. Now, if that book then contained prophecies that came true, that would add another facet to the gem, and then you'd have to ask questions: how did this man know about things that he could not have been exposed to? So you see, that's why your analogy doesn't actually work about people claiming that they were abducted by aliens.
No, then you missed the point of the analogy, right?
Obviously, your mic, Cloud. You sound like you're underwater.
What?
You sound like you're underwater. What's happened to your mic?
I evolved and grew gills.
What? I said you sound like you're underwater. I'm not talking about evolution from fish, mate.
I'm a fish.
No, your sound is very bad.
I don't know why. Is that better?
Not really. But go on. We'll bear with it.
Sorry, I had to move my wife gave me trouble because I've been at this long, and she said politely, hurry the fuck up.
1 second.
Yeah, it's sounding awful there. I don't want to stop it here, but I'm not sure if there's anything more to be said here. And your mic is sounding pretty crap here as well. All right, so there's the link. You can carry on watching from there. I think otherwise we're just never going to get done here. So I think let's bring it to a close there.